Hey guys, tonight we dive into a tale that's as bizarre as it is chilling, straight from the shadowy corridors of medieval history. Imagine yourself as a weary king, your body aching from years of scheming and strife, wrapped in the dim glow of a flickering candle in a drafty chamber. The air hangs heavy with the scent of aged wine and musty tapestries, while outside the wind whispers secrets through the stone walls of your castle. You probably won't believe the terrifying truth of this story, how a simple remedy for exhaustion turned into a fiery nightmare that consumed a monarch alive. So before you continue listening to my story, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel so I know you're still listening along with me. Now settle in, let your eyelids grow heavy, and let's slip back to 1387, where you, Charles II of Navarre, find yourself teetering on the edge of collapse. You trudge through the echoing halls of your palace in Pamplona, each step feeling like dragging chains across cold flagstones. The year is 1387, and at 55 years old, you've lived a life that's left you utterly spent. Your body, once agile and sharp for the political games you played so ruthlessly, now betrays you with a bone-deep weariness that no amount of rest can shake. It's as if the weight of your crown has finally crushed the spirit out of you, leaving you gasping for energy like a fish flopping on dry land. You pause by a narrow window, gazing out at the misty hills of Navarre, your kingdom squeezed between the giants of France and Aragon. The fog rolls in like a shroud, mirroring the haze clouding your mind. Whispers from your courtiers follow you, soft, concerned murmurs about your paling face and trembling hands. They've seen kings falter before, but never one like you, the infamous Charles the Bad, whose reputation for cunning plots precedes him like a dark shadow. As you sink into a velvet-cushioned chair by the hearth, the fire crackles softly, casting dancing shadows that seem to mock your frailty. Your joints ache from the endless travels and battles, the intrigues that have defined your reign. Remember those days when you juggled alliances like a street performer with flaming torches. You pitted France against England, schemed for the French throne itself, and even stirred up rebellions that kept the Hundred Years' War simmering. But now all that fire has burned out inside you, leaving ashes of exhaustion. Your physicians hover nearby, their robes swishing like ghosts, muttering about humors out of balance and the need for drastic measures. One of them, a stern-faced man with a beard like tangled wool, insists it's the chill of winter seeping into your bones, sapping your vital heat. You nod weakly, too tired to argue, as the room spins slightly from the effort of staying upright. In this moment, you feel the isolation of power kin life way it isolates you even from your own body. Your mind drifts to quirkier remedies you've heard of in your travels, like the old wives' tale from the Pyrenees about bathing in goat's milk to restore vigor, or that fringe whisper from alchemists claiming mercury elixirs could grant eternal youth. But those seem foolish now, distant echoes in your foggy thoughts. Instead, your doctor proposes something more grounded, yet still laced with that medieval flair, wrapping you in cloth soaked in strong wine or perhaps brandy, to draw out the cold and infuse warmth back into your limbs. It's a common enough practice in these times, drawn from the ancient texts of Galen and Hippocrates, where alcohol's fire is believed to combat internal chills. You chuckle faintly to yourself, the irony of a king nicknamed the Bad being prescribed a boozy blanket bath. If only your enemies could see you now reduced to a pickled sovereign. The sensory details assault you as preparations begin. The sharp, tangy aroma of the wine filling the chamber, mingling with the smoky wood from the fire. Servants bustle about, dipping linens into barrels, the liquid sloshing like waves in a storm. Your skin prickles in anticipation, a mix of dread and hope. You've always been a gambler, haven't you? Betting on poisons and plots. Like that time you allegedly tried to assassinate the French king with tainted candles. How scholars still debate whether that was fact or just venomous rumors spread by your foes. Was it a clever ploy or mere slander? The open question lingers in historical tomes, a puzzle that keeps academics arguing over dusty manuscripts late into the night. As the evening deepens, you recline on your bed, the heavy brocade curtains drawn to ward off drafts. The wine-soaked cloths are laid out, dripping slightly onto the rushes scattered on the floor, releasing vapors that make your head swim pleasantly. An assistant, a young lad with wide eyes and clumsy fingers, fumbles with the threads, his nervousness palpable in the dim light. You close your eyes, letting the SMR-like rustle of fabric lull you toward sleep. It's almost comforting, this ritual, like being swaddled in a giant, tipsy embrace. Modern folks might compare it to a spa day gone wrong, wrapping up in essential oils. But back then, it was cutting-edge medicine. You smirk inward. Imagine if social media existed, your courtiers would be tweeting, "King getting lit," literally. But the joke fades as fatigue pulls you deeper, your breath slowing to a rhythmic whisper. Yet beneath the calm, a subtle tension builds, your body ravaged by years of excess feasts that lasted days. Wines that flowed like river snow demands repayment. Historians note that Charles II's reign was marked by his involvement in the complex web of the Hundred Years' War, a mainstream fact that saw him imprisoned twice and always scheming for more power. That constant strain, the betrayals and battles, has led to this, a king on the brink, seeking solace in spirits. And here's a quirky tidbit from the fringes of lore. Some chroniclers whisper that your exhaustion wasn't just physical but cursed, a payback from the spirits of those you'd wronged. Like the ghosts of poisoned rivals haunting your vitality. Superstitious nonsense, perhaps, but in the flickering candlelight, it feels all too real. You shift slightly, the first layer of cloth draping over your arms, warm and heavy like a lover's hug. The alcohol seeps into your pores, a tingling heat that promises relief. But as the assistant reaches for tools to secure it, you sense the setup for something fateful. The room grows quieter, the fire popping like distant thunder. Scholars debate the exact cause of your decline. Was it truly overwork? Or did underlying ailments like gout or even poison from old enemies play a role? That open scholarly debate swirls like the wine vapors, unanswered across centuries. Your thoughts wander to your legacy, the children and conquests that might outlive this weakness. But for now you surrender to the treatment, eyelids fluttering shut. The world softens, edges blurring in the candle's glow. Little do you know, this attempt at warmth will ignite a horror beyond imagining. The assistant's hand trembles as he works, the candle flame dancing dangerously close. You drift, exhaustion's grip tightening like invisible vines, pulling you toward a destiny wrapped in flames. The vapors from the wine-soaked linens curl around you like misty fingers, teasing your senses with their sharp, fermented bite. You lie there on the grand bed, its posts carved with snarling lions that seem to guard your vulnerability. As the physician leans in closer, his breath warm against your ear. He's a trusted figure in your court, this doctor, schooled in the universities of Paris and Montpellier, where the air buzzes with debates over bloodletting and herbal poultices. With a voice as soothing as chamomile tea, he explains the remedy. These cloths, drenched in the strongest aquavit or perhaps brandy distilled from the vineyards of your southern lands, will envelop your body like a cocoon, drawing out the insidious cold that's settled in your marrow. It's meant to kindle your inner fire, Restore the balance of humors that your exhaustive lifestyle has thrown into chaos. You nod faintly, the effort pulling at muscles that feel like taut bowstrings ready to snap. As the servants continue their work, dipping more fabric into the barrels, the liquid glugs rhythmically, echoing off the stone walls like a distant heartbeat. The room feels warmer already, or maybe that's just the anticipation playing tricks on your feverish mind. Your doctor adjusts his spectaclesto's newfangled inventions from Italy that make him look like a wise owl and mutters about how this treatment harks back to the wisdom of Avicenna, the Persian sage whose canon of medicine is a staple in every learned healer's library. It's a mainstream historical fact that such alcohol-based therapies were widespread in medieval Europe, used to treat everything from rheumatism to melancholy, believing the spirit's heat could mimic the sun's vital rays. You almost smirk at the thought. Here you are, the king who once set kingdoms ablaze with your schemes, now relying on literal spirits to reignite your own flame. But there's a quirky edge to this all, isn't there? Whispers from the fringes of court gossip suggest that some healers in the Basque regions, near your Navarrese borders, mix in secret herbs like mandrake or even crushed pearls into the soak, claiming it wards off evil eyes or restores virility lost to age. Imagine that, a royal pickle with a dash of mysticism. Your mind wanders to lighter fancies. If this were a modern spa, they'd probably call it the Vintage Vitality Wrap and charge a fortune, complete with ambient loop music. You chuckle softly to yourself. The sound raspy in your throat jokes on you, though, because back then, no refunds if it goes sideways. The physician directs the assistants with precise gestures, his hands fluttering like birds in flight. Layer it evenly, he instructs, from toes to crown, sealing in the warmth. You feel the first full wrap settling over your legs, heavy and damp. The alcohol's sting seeping through your thin nightshirt like 1,000 tiny pins. It's oddly invigorating at first, a buzz that travels up your spine, making your toes curl involuntarily. The scent intensifies, overpowering the faint lavender from the bed linens, turning the chamber into a heady distillery. Outside, you hear the muffled calls of guards changing shift, their boots crunching on gravel, a reminder that life in the palace churns uneven as you lie here, cocooned in this desperate bid for recovery. As more cloths are applied, wrapping your torso like a mummy from those ancient Egyptian tales you've heard from traveling scholars, you reflect on how your weakening state has forced this hand. Your reign has been a whirlwind of diplomacy and deceit, allying with England one moment, betraying France the next, all while clinging to your sliver of a kingdom. That constant maneuvering, the imprisonments in French dungeons where damp cells sapped your strength years ago, has caught up. Scholars openly debate whether your exhaustion stemmed purely from political overreach, or if it masked a deeper malady, perhaps a lingering effect from those rumored poison attempts by rivals. Did the arsenic traces from past plots finally accumulate, or was it just the toll of a bad-tempered life? The process drags on, the assistant's movements growing more deliberate under the doctor's watchful eye. One of them, an older woman with calloused hands from years in service, hums a soft lullaby as she tucks the edges, her voice a gentle murmur that blends with the crackle of the hearth. It's almost ASMR-worthy, that rhythmic folding and smoothing, lulling you toward a drowsy haze. But beneath it, a subtle unease stirs. The cloths are flammable, after all, and the room is lit by candles sputtering in their holders. Your doctor reassures you, his tone relaxed yet laced with that gentle sarcasm you've come to appreciate. Majesty, fear not, this is no witch's brew. Merely nature's own fire water to chase away the chill. You manage a weak laugh. If only your enemies knew. The man they called Charles the Bad, tamed by a tipsy towel. Layer by layer, the wrap builds, encasing your arms, now pinning them gently to your sides. The warmth spreads, a slow bloom that eases the ache in your joints, making you sigh in relief. It's working, or so it seems, the alcohol's essence permeating your skin, chasing shadows from your weary frame. Modern asides flicker in your mind. Picture today's doctors prescribing a hot toddy for drip instead. But here in 1387, this is the pinnacle of care, a blend of science and superstition. And here's another light-hearted nudge. If this remedy flops, at least you'll go out smelling like a fine vintage, ready for the afterlife's grand banquet. The physician steps back to admire the work, nodding approval as the final pieces are positioned. Your body feels swaddled, secure, the pressure almost comforting, like being held by the earth itself. The vapors rise thicker now, a foggy veil that softens the candlelight, turning the room into a dreamlike haze. You close your eyes, letting the sensation wash over you, the tingling heat promising renewal. But the assistant with the thread, that young lad from before, itches for his tools again, his fingers hovering near the flame. The doctor's voice fades into a background hum, instructions blending with the pop of embers. In this suspended moment, you ponder the fragility of it all. Your kingdom hangs by threads finer than these, alliances as volatile as the spirits soaking into you. A fringe tidbit from old chronicles mentions how some kings before you turned to even wilder cures, like sleeping on beds of heated stones or ingesting gold flakes, quirky experiments that make your wine rap seem tame. Yet the open debate among historians persists. Was this prescription a standard protocol, or did your doctor's desperation push boundaries? Influenced by alchemical trends sweeping Europe, the wrap complete, you lie there breathing shallowly, the warmth building to a gentle simmer. It's oddly peaceful, this immersion, pulling you toward sleep's embrace. Little whispers of doubt linger, but you push them aside, trusting in the healer's art. The chamber quiets, the servants retreating to shadows, leaving you to marinate in hope. But as the assistant snips or reaches for that candle, there thickens with unspoken peril, the remedy's edge sharpening unseen. The final threads dangle like loose ends in a forgotten tapestry, swaying gently in the draught that sneaks through the chamber's cracks. You lie there, encased in your wine-soaked shroud, the fabric clinging to your skin like a second, sticky layer, its weight pressing down with a peculiar comfort that's starting to border on claustrophobic. The physician nods to the young assistant, his voice a low murmur. Trim the excess, boy, but mind the flammeuse de shears. But the lad, perhaps flustered by the royal presence or simply scatterbrained from a long day's duties, glances around the dimly lit room. The scissors, those iron blades glinting on a side table, seem just out of reach in his hurried mind. Instead, his eyes settle on the nearest candle, its wick flickering invitingly, a pool of wax gathering at its base like tears. You sense the shift before it happens, a subtle tension rippling through the air, thick with the fumes of alcohol that make everything feel hazy and slow. The assistant picks up the candle, holding it aloft like a tiny torch, the flame dancing merrily as if oblivious to the danger it's about to unleash. He brings it close to the dangling thread on your wrap, intending to singe it clean, a common shortcut in these times, when haste often trumps caution. In the flickering light of medieval life, the scent of melting wax mingles with the heady wine vapors, creating a cocktail of aromas that tickles your nose, almost lulling you deeper into that drowsy state. But then, in a heartbeat, the flame licks too eagerly at the fabric's edge. It's a spark at first, a tiny glow that blooms like a forbidden flower in the night. You feel the heat intensify, not the soothing warmth of the remedy, but a sharp, insistent bite that jolts your senses awake. The cloth, saturated with the flammable spirits brandy or aquavit potent enough to ignite with the slightest provocation, catches fire with a whoosh that's both startling and surreal. Flames leap up, racing along the threads like gossip through a court, devouring the linen in hungry gulps. Panic erupts in the room. The assistant yelps, dropping the candle, which rolls across the floor, spilling wax like blood from a wound. The physician shouts, his calm facade shattering as he lunges forward, but its tulip-teeth blaze has taken hold, wrapping you in a cocoon of inferno. You thrash instinctively, but the bindings hold firm, turning your bed into a pyre. The heat sears your skin, a scorching wave that makes every nerve scream in protest, the air filling with the acrid stench of burning cloth and singed hair. Servants rush in from the shadows, their faces pale masks of horror, grabbing at buckets and blankets in a frantic ballet. Water sloshes from a nearby ewer, hissing as it meets the flames, but the alcohol fuels the fire, making it stubborn and fierce. You gasp, the smoke clawing at your throat like invisible talons, your vision blurring through tears that evaporate in the heat. It's as if the very remedy meant to revive you has turned traitor, a poetic twist that might make you laugh if the pain weren't so all-consuming. In this chaos your mind flashes to the ironies of your life, king who played with fire in politics, now literally engulfed by it. Modern observers might quip that it's like forgetting the oven mitts while handling a flan dessert. But here in 1387, there's no fire extinguisher, just desperate hands batting at the flames. The physician tears at the cloths, his fingers blistering as he unwraps the burning layers, revealing reddened skin beneath that's already bubbling in protest. You hear the sizzle, feel the agony ripple through your body like waves on a stormy sea, each crest higher than the last. The room thins, a whirlwind of shouts and shadows. The fires crackle, drowning out everything else. Historians record this mishap as a stark example of medieval medical mishaps, a mainstream fact highlighting how common flammable treatments were, often leading to accidents in candlelit eras before electricity tamed the night. Yet there's a quirky fringe detail lurking in the annals. Some accounts suggest the assistant was no mere novice, but a spy from rival courts. His mistake a veiled assassination, whispers of sabotage that add a layer of intrigue to the blaze. Scholars debate openly whether the candle choice was sheer incompetence or a fatigue from your court's endless intrigues dulled everyone's vigilance. A question that fuels fireside discussions among academics even today. As the flames are finally subdued, steam rising like ghosts from the charred remnants, you lie there panting, the air heavy with the smell of scorched linen and regret. Blisters form rapidly, angry red welts that throb with every heartbeat, your body a map of torment. The assistant cowers in the corner, mumbling apologies that sound hollow against the roar in your ears. You almost pity him, but the sarcasm bubbles up through the pain. Leave it to a candle to a China king's wit. The physician applies salves hastily, cool ointments that offer fleeting relief, their herbal scents a weak counter to the devastation. Your courtiers hover at the door, drawn by the commotion, their whispers like rustling leaves. The king, burned, omen. You close your eyes against the sting, willing the world to fade. But the agony anchors you firmly in the present. The bed linens are ruined, blackened scraps clinging to the frame, a testament to how quickly fortune can turn. In your delirium, you recall other close, wholesome prisons where you escaped by cunning, battles where luck favored the bold. But this is intimate, a betrayal from within your own sanctuary. A light joke flits through your mind, at least you're well done now, fit for a royal roast. The thought brings a grimace more than a grin, the pain sharpening every sense. The chamber settles into an uneasy quiet. The fire in the hearth now watched warily, its embers glowing like accusatory eyes. Servants clear the debris, their movements soft and deliberate, as if afraid to spark another disaster. You feel the first waves of shock setting in, your body trembling not from cold but from the assault it's endured. The wine's remnants sting the wounds, a cruel reminder of the failed cure. Modern asides imagine paramedics rushing in with aloe vera gels, but here it's poultices of egg whites and honey, folklore remedies slapped on in haste. As night deepens, the pain morphs into a constant hum, lulling you toward an easy rest. But sleep evades, chased by visions of flames licking at your dreams. The assistant's face haunts you, his careless hand the catalyst for this nightmare. Scholars ponder if such accidents were underreported, debating the reliability of chroniclers who might have embellished for dramatic effect. Was the candle truly the villain? Or did embellished tales inflate the horror? The open question lingers, much like the smoke in the air. Your breaths come shallow, the room's warmth now oppressive rather than comforting. The palace outside hums with subdued activity, guards murmuring about the king's mishap. You lie there wrapped in bandages instead of wine, the clash of cloths and candles echoing in your mind like a bad omen. Little relief comes, only the promise of lingering torment, as the burns settle in, heralding worse to come. The embers of the subdued fire still glow faintly on the floor, casting an eerie orange hue across the chamber. But the true horror is etched into your flesh now, a living inferno that refuses to fade. You lie there, breaths coming in ragged gasps, as the initial shock gives way to a wave of unrelenting pain that crashes over you like a tidal surge. The burns pulse with every heartbeat, hot coals embedded under your skin, radiating outward in fiery tendrils that make your entire body quiver. It's as if the flames, though extinguished, have burrowed inside, feasting on your vitality from within. The air hangs thick with the bitter tang of charred fabric and seared meat, a scent that clings to your nostrils, turning your stomach even as nausea swells in your throat. You try to move, but the slightest shift sends fresh agony ripping through you like knives twisting in open wounds. Blisters swell rapidly, ballooning on your arms and legs, their surfaces glistening in the dim light like grotesque jewels. The physician hovers close, his face ashen, dabbing at the damage with trembling hands, murmuring apologies that blend into the background hum of the room. Servants scurry about, their footsteps muffled on the singed rushes, fetching more salves and cool cloths in a desperate bid to soothe what can't be undone. Panic lingers in their wide eyes, a mirror to the chaos that just unfolded, blaze that turned your sanctuary into a hellish furnace in mere moments. Flash back to that instant when the fire truly took hold, the horrifying blaze erupting with a ferocity that defies belief. 1 second, the candle's flame is a harmless flicker. The next, it's a roaring beast leaping from thread to cloth, ignited by the volatile spirits that were meant to heal. You feel it first as a prickling heat, then a sudden whoosh of air being sucked away, replaced by scorching waves that envelop you head to toe. The flames dance across the wine-soaked linens, crackling like dry leaves underfoot, their orange tongues licking greedily at everything in reach. Your bed curtains catch necks, billowing like sails in a storm of fire, the room filling with thick, choking smoke that stings your eyes and sears your lungs. Screams echo yours mingled with the assistant's, a cacophony that pierces the night like shattered glass. You thrash against the bindings, but they're your prison now, holding the inferno close, amplifying the torment. The pain is all-consuming, a white-hot symphony that drowns out thought, leaving only raw sensation, skin tightening, bubbling, splitting under the assault. It's as if your body is a canvas for some demonic artist, painted in strokes of agony that radiate from chest to limbs. The chamber transforms into a scene from a nightmare, shadows leaping wildly on the walls, the fires roar drowning the distant toll of a bell outside. In the midst of this pandemonium, your mind clutches at fragments of claritive irony of it all, a king nicknamed the bad meeting such absurdly tragic fate. Modern folks might compare it to a viral fail video, the kind where someone lights a birthday cake and ends up torching the table, except here, there's no laugh track, just genuine peril. You almost chuckle through the haze, a sarcastic bubble rising. Well, at least you're providing the court jesters with material for yours. But the joke sours as another wave hits, pain spiking like lightning, forcing a groan from your lips. Historians note that such accidents were not uncommon in the era, a mainstream fact underscoring the hazards of open flames in households reliant on candles and hearths, where flammable remedies like alcohol wraps often led to unintended conflagrations. Yet there's a quirky fringe tidbit from contemporary chronicles. Some believed the fire was no accident but a divine judgment, flames summoned by the sins of your scheming past. Like the poisoned plots against kin that earned you your moniker, superstitious folklore that painted you as cursed by heavenly arson. The physician finally rips away the last of the burning scraps, his hands raw from the effort, revealing the extent of the damage. Vast swaths of reddened, weeping skin that promise scars if you survive. Water buckets are appended, hissing steam rising like specters, quenching the remnants as servants beat at embers with blankets. Your vision swims, the room tilting in a dizzying spin, colors bleeding into one another under the assault. Pain becomes your world, constant companion that whispers taunts in your ear, mocking the exhaustion that led you here. You gasp for air, each inhale a labored rasp, the smoke's residue coating your throat like ash. Courtiers burst in, drawn by the commotion, their silks rustling like autumn leaves as they gape at the scene, whispers spread like the fire itself, the king ablaze. What omen is this? Their faces blur in your teary gaze, a gallery of shock and fear that mirrors your own inner turmoil. The ASMR cadence of the moment shifts from soothing to sinister, soft patter of dripping water, the gentle crackle of dying embers, now twisted into harbingers of suffering. Another light-hearted aside flickers. If this were a cooking show gone wrong, they'd call it flamme royale, but the sarcasm fades quickly, swallowed by the relentless throb. Scholars debate openly whether the blaze's sudden ferocity was exaggerated in later accounts, perhaps to heighten the drama of your demise, or if the alcohol's potency truly created such an explosive reaction, a question that divides experts poring over faded parchments. As the immediate panic subsides, the room quiets to a tense hush, broken only by your shallow breaths and the physician's soft commands for more herbs. Bandages are wound carefully, their cool touch a fleeting mercy against the inferno beneath. You lie still, forcing calm through the storm, your body a battlefield where pain holds the high ground. The night stretches endlessly, each minute an eternity of torment, the blaze's echo reverberating in every nerve. Outside, the wind howls as if mourning the king's folly, while inside you confront the horrifying reality. This is no quick end, but the start of a prolonged agony that will test the limits of your endurance. The sensory onslaught continues unabated, sticky residue of sobs, the metallic taste of blood from bitten lips, the distant murmur of prayers from a kneeling servant. Your thoughts drift hazily to past triumphs, battles where you outwitted foes with cunning rather than might, but now outmaneuvered by a mere candle. A third joke surfaces weakly, Talk about a hot streak ending badly. The pain pulls you back, anchoring you in the present, where every twitch ignites fresh sparks. Gradually, the chamber's chaos settles into watchful vigil. Candles were lit at a safe distance, their flames now wary sentinels. You close your eyes, seeking escape in darkness, but the blaze lives on inside, a horrifying eruption that has forever altered your world. Panic gives way to grim acceptance, the room heavy with unspoken dread, as you brace for the pain's unyielding grip. The acrid smoke lingers in the chamber like a unwelcome guest curling lazily toward the rafters as the last embers are stamped out under hurried boots. You lie there, your body a throbbing landscape of anguish, the burns etching deep into your flesh with an insistence that defies mercy. The initial blaze may be quenched, but its legacy ignites within you now a slow, agonizing survival that unfolds second by excruciating second. Your skin, once pale from exhaustion, is now a mottled canvas of red and black, blisters rising like angry boils, weeping fluid that soaks the fresh bandages wrapped hastily around you. Each breath draws fire into your lungs, a raspy wheeze that echoes the crackle of the flames that betrayed you, while pain radiates upward in waves, crashing against your resolve like relentless surf on jagged rocks. You cling to consciousness, fingers twitching feebly at the sheets, but movement only amplifies the torment, sending sparks of agony shooting through nerves that feel raw and exposed. The physician kneels beside you, his face etched with guilt and desperation, applying layer after layer of cooling poultice mixtures of vinegar and rosewater, drawn from ancient recipes that promise relief but deliver only fleeting whispers against the roar. Servants hover in the shadows, their eyes wide with a mix of pity and fear, fanning you gently with palm leaves to stir the stagnant air. The room, once a haven of royal repose, now feels like a tomb, heavy with the scent of ointments and charred remnants, air thick enough to taste on your parched tongue. In these first harrowing hours, the horror settles in fully. You're alive, yes, but survival tastes bitter, a cruel jest from fate that prolongs your suffering rather than ending it. The burns cover much of your body, from chest to thighs, where the wine-soaked cloths clung tightest, turning what was meant as a gentle warmth into a voracious devour. You feel the swelling begin, tissues inflating like overripe fruit, pressing against the bandages until they strain. Helplessness wraps around you tighter than any linen, pinning you to the bed as surely as chains the mighty Charles II, reduced to a whimpering invalid, dependent on the very hands that failed you. A sarcastic thought bubbles up through the haze. Who knew a candle could dethrone a king faster than any army? As dawn creeps through the narrow windows, painting the walls in pale gold, your mind drifts in, and out of delirium, fragments of memory surfacing like debris in a flood. You recall the panic's peak, faces blurring in the smoke, hands tearing at the flames while you screamed commands that dissolved into guttural cries. Now, in the quiet aftermath, the pain evolves, sharpening into specifics. A deep throb in your arms where blisters burst, a stinging itch across your back that begs for scratching but yields only more hurt. The physician mutters incantations under his breath, blending medicine with prayer, his tools clinking softly on a tray. Scissors now ironically to cut away dead fabric, alongside vials of laudanum that he dribbles onto your lips for numb relief. Historians chronicle this phase as a testament to medieval resilience, a mainstream fact that kings like you often endured grievous injuries from hunts or battles, surviving through sheer will and rudimentary care that modern medicine would deem barbaric. Yet there's a quirky fringe anecdote tucked in the margins of old texts. Some believe your survival owed a nod to a peculiar amulet you wore, a relic from a pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela. Said to ward off fiery death's folklore charm or placebo, it added a layer of mystic hope to your ordeal. You hear the palace stirring beyond your door, muffled voices carrying news of the accident like ripples in a pond. Courtiers whisper of omens, linking your blaze to the turbulent skies outside, where storm clouds gather as if heaven itself weeps for your plight. Inside, helplessness deepens. You try to speak, to demand updates on your kingdom, but words emerge as croaks, swallowed by thirst and torment. The assistant who sparked it all is banished to the corners, his sobs a distant echo, while nurses rotate shifts, their gentle dabs on your wounds a rhythmic ASMR that almost lulls you, if not for the spikes of pain that jolt you awake. Swelling torment builds relentlessly, your limbs ballooning until they feel foreign, heavy appendages that no longer obey. Fluid seeps, staining linens yellow, the metallic tang of infection hinting at worse to come. You ponder your life's ironies in fevered burst schemer who orchestrated poisonings and betrayals, now poisoned by his own cure. Modern asides imagine for drips and burn units, but here it's herbal teas forced down your throat, bitter brews of willow bark to dull the edge. A light joke flickers weakly. At least you're not undercooked anymore. Fate prefers its king's well chart. Scholars debate openly the extent of your burn severity. Were they truly life-threatening from the start? Or did poor hygiene in the palace exacerbate them, turning survivable wounds into a fatal cascade? This question divides experts, parsing chroniclers' accounts for clues in faded ink. Days blur into a haze of endurance. Each are a battle against the swelling that chokes your breath, the pain that gnaws like invisible teeth. You cling to life with the tenacity that defined your reign, summoning visions of your children, your ears waiting in the wings to fuel your fight. The chamber becomes your world, walls closing in with the scent of healing herbs, lavender, and comfrey that war against a rot. Helplessness breeds frustration. You who commanded armies now beg for water in whispers, your voice a shadow of its former bark. As infection's first tendrils creep in, a fever rises, hot flashes alternating with chills that rattle your frame. The physician consults tones by candlelight, carefully distant, now baiting bloodletting, but opts for leeches instead. Their slick bodies attaching to your unburned skin with sucking sounds that turn your stomach. You endure it all, eyes fixed on the ceiling's painted stars, willing strength from the cosmos. Another sarcastic nudge. If this is royal treatment, perhaps peasantry isn't so bad after all. The torment swells like a symphony reaching crescendo, every sense heightened, the soft rustle of bandages shifting, the distant chime of bells marking hours you wish would hasten. In moments of clarity, you reflect on callbacks to your exhaustion, how that initial fatigue pales against this vivid hell. Quirky tidbits surface from delirium, tales of other monarchs surviving fires through miraculous interventions, like holy oils that supposedly repelled flames, fringe miracles you now crave. Your body fights on, a vessel adrift in pain's ocean, helplessness your anchor. Nurses murmur lullabies, their voices a gentle cadence against the storm, but sleep comes fitfully, haunted by flames that replay in dreams. You survive, hour by hour, clinging amid the swelling, the world outside fading as your inner battle rages. The palace holds its breath, waiting for signs of recovery or decline, while you, in silent agony, embody the king's unyielding spirit. The palace's breath seems to hold indefinitely, a suspended hush that blankets the corridors like fresh fallen snow. But within your chamber, the storm rages on unchecked. You lie there, your body a battered fortress under siege, as the initial burns give way to an insidious new foe, infection creeping in like shadows at dusk. It starts subtly, a faint warmth in the wounds that morphs into a feverish glow, spreading from the blistered skin outward, tendrils of decay weaving through your flesh with cruel precision. The swelling peaks and then shifts, tissues darkening under the bandages, a ominous hue that the physician notes with furrowed brow as he unwraps them gingerly. Pus gathers, seeping through the linens in sticky rivulets, carrying a foul, sweet sickly odor that permeates the air, overriding the herbal scents of the salves. You feel it first in your extremities, a numbness stealing in like a thief in the night, robbing you of sensation in fingers and toes that once gripped scepters and signed treacherous treaties. The gangrene advances rapidly, that dreaded black death of the limbs, turning healthy tissue to rot as if your body is consuming itself in revenge for years of neglect. Pain evolves yet again, from sharp stabs to a deep, gnawing ache that pulses with every heartbeat, like roots burrowing into soil. Your legs, wrapped tightest in the fateful cloths, suffer worst, skin sloughing away in patches, revealing angry, mottled flesh beneath that weeps and festers. Helplessness deepens. You try to wiggle your toes, command your hand to fist, but they respond sluggishly, then not at all, as if severed by invisible blades. The physician consults in whispers with his aides, their faces pale in the flickering lamplight, no oil lamps, candles banished like guilty accomplices. They apply poultices of bread mold and honey, ancient remedies whispered through generations, hoping to staunch the spread, but the infection laughs at their efforts, marching onward with the inevitability of an invading army. You gasp as they probe the wounds, the touch like hot irons even through the laudanum haze, your breath shallow and labored, chest heaving against the rot's grip. The room spins in fevered dreams, visions of past glories mingling with hallucinations, flames licking at your bedposts again, or ghostly figures of betrayed allies pointing accusing fingers. Infection's rapid spread turns days into a blurred torment, your limbs growing heavy, unresponsive, as decay sets in deeply, layer by layer. Historians record gangrene as a common scourge in medieval times, a mainstream fact that felled many a warrior and royal alike, often from battlefield wounds and treated in unsanitary conditions, leading to amputations or death without the antiseptics we take for granted today. Yet here's a quirky fringe tidbit from the year's folklore. Some healers believed rubbing wounds with crushed garlic and spider webs could halt the blackening. A peculiar paste said to draw out evil humors. Imagine the court apothecary spinning that web of hope. You lie immobilized, staring at the canopy above, its embroidered stars mocking your grounded state. Modern asides drift through your delirium like how today's antibiotics would zap this in a week, turning your ordeal into a bad memory rather than a death sentence. A light joke surfaces amid the haze. If gangrene's the thief, at least it's polite enough to numb what it steals. No mercies in a big mess. But sarcasm fades as the reality bites harder. Your arms dangle useless at your sides, fingers curled into claws that won't uncurl. The lost use of limbs chroniclers will later describe hitting you like a decree from on high. Nurses tend you round the clock, their soft footsteps a gentle patter on the stone floor, voices murmuring prayers that blend into a soothing drone. They change dressings with care, the rustle of fabric and drip of water from sponges creating an ASMR rhythm that's almost hypnotic, if not for the spikes of agony that shatter the calm. Fever racks you, chills alternating with sweats that soak the sheets, your body a battlefield where heat and cold clash endlessly. The palace outside buzzes with subdued activity, messengers tiptoeing, feasts cancelled. The air thick with unspoken dread that your reign might end in this putrid whisper rather than a blaze of glory. Scholars debate openly whether the gangrene's swift onset was due to the burn's depth or contaminated wine in the original wrap, a puzzle that has experts dissecting accounts for hints of medieval malpractice versus inevitable fate. The decay delves deeper, robbing you of more than movement. Dignity slips away as servants assist with every need, your once commanding presence reduced to feeble gestures. You ponder your legacy in lucid moments, callbacks to exhaustion's onset now seeming quite against this rot's advance. Another joke flickers. They called you Charles the Bad, but gangrene's the real villain, turning bad to worse without even a plot twist. The pain localizes, throbbing in deadened zones that paradoxically scream, nerves firing errant signals like misfired arrows. Outside your window, birdsong mocks the silence within, while courtiers gather in antechambers, faces drawn speculating on succession. Your mind wanders to quirky cures you've hard leeches from the marshes, or that fringe practice of burying limbs in earth to ground the poison, but the physician shakes his head, opting for incisions that drain the foulness. Each cut a fresh hell, the scent intensifies, a cloying rot that clings to curtains and clothes, turning your chamber into a sepulchre. As limbs fail fully, you feel the isolation keenly, a king adrift on a sea of decay, clinging to threads of will. Fever dreams intensify, blending reality with phantoms, flames returning, but now internal, consuming from inside out. A third light-hearted nudge, if this is nature's way of saying rest, it's got a twisted sense of humor, more like eternal bedtime without the story. The ASMR elements persist, soft swish of brooms clearing debris, the distant hum of chants from the chapel lulling you toward edges of unconsciousness. The advance continues mercilessly, gangrene claiming territory inch by inch, your body betraying you in ways no enemy ever could. Helpless cries escape in the night, muffled by pillows, as function ebbs away, leaving you a shell of the schemer you were. Palace life orbits around your decline, whispers growing bolder. The king fades, limbs lost, you endure breath by breath, the cruel progression etching deeper, decay's grip unyielding as stone. The rot's insidious march leaves you adrift in a fog of fever and futility, your chamber cocoon of stifled sounds where even the distant toll of bells feels like a taunt from the world beyond. Whispers seep through the heavy oak doors like tendrils of mist, carried on the lips of courtiers who cluster in the antechambers, their silken robes rustling softly as they lean in close to share the latest murmur. You catch fragments through the haze, words like omen and curse drifting in on drafts that stir the tapestries, making the woven scenes of hunts and battles seem to quiver with life. The palace, once a hive of your calculated intrigues, now buzzes with a different energy, fear-laced gossip that spreads faster than the gangrene claiming your limbs, turning your accident into a spectral tale that haunts the halls. You lie there, limbs heavy as leaden weights, unable to summon the strength to silence them, your voice reduced to a hoarse rasp that barely carries past the bed's edge. The nurses exchange glances over you, their hands gentle as they adjust pillows, the soft pat of their palms against feathers a rhythmic whisper that almost lulls you back into delirium. But the rumors pull you awake, slithering into your ears like uninvited guests, tales of how the fire was no mere mishap but a divine retribution for your bad deeds. The poisoned steams and betrayals that painted your reign in shades of infamy. Courtiers speculate in hushed tones about succession, eyes darting toward your heirseer son Charles, perhaps. Or the daughters married off to secure alliance, wondering if your fading rule signals the end of an era squeezed between France and Aragon. The air thickens with incense burned to mask the decay's stench, coils of smoke curling lazily toward the ceiling like prayers ascending unanswered. Sensory details assault you even in weakness. The faint clink of goblets in distant rooms where nobles sip when ironic. That same spirit that doomed you now toasts your uncertain fatigued creak of floors under pacing feet, and the muffled sobs of a lady in waiting who believes your blaze foretells doom for the kingdom. Modern folks might liken it to a viral scandal blowing up on social media, whispers turning to wildfires online, but here, it's quill to parchment, messenger to ear, amplifying the fear until the palace feels alive with paranoia. Rumors swirl unchecked, painting your accident as an ill portent, a sign from the heavens that your turbulent rule has offended the stars. One courtier claims to have seen a comet streak across the sky that very night, its tail a fiery echo of your blaze's superstitious fodder that spreads like plague. You almost smirk through the pain, a gentle sarcasm bubbling up. Ah, if only your enemies knew. The king who orchestrated whispers now drowned in them, a poetic turnaround. The physician, ever vigilant, shoos away the gawkers who peek in, his voice a low murmur blending with the ASMR hum of dripping water from a basin. But the damage is done, the palace pulses with dread. Guards gripping their halberds tighter, as if expecting ghosts to rise from your misfortune. Historians note that court intrigue often amplified royal misfortunes, a mainstream fact seen in the Hundred Years' War era where rumors could topple alliances as effectively as armies, with kings like you navigating webs of gossip that mirrored battlefield strategies. Yet there's a quirky fringe tidbit from the chronicles. Some accounts whisper of a soothsayer in your employ who predicted a fiery end months prior, interpreting dreams of burning crowns as warnings, ignored folklore, or fabricated hindsight. It adds a mystic sheen to the swirling tales. Your mind wanders in the quiet lulls, callbacks to the exhaustion that started this chaining you here, now amplified by the court's anxious buzz. A light joke flits through. Talk about burning bridge sheer accidents got the whole palace crossing themselves instead. The fears manifest in subtle ways. Meals arrive colder, as if cooks dread using flames near your quarters. Chaplains linger longer, their chants a soothing drone that weaves through the whispers. Invoking saints to ward off the omens, you feel the isolation deepen. A king isolated not just by pain but by the aura of curse that clings to you like smoke. Scholars debate openly whether these rumors were organic fear or planted by rivals eyeing your throne. A question that divides interpretations of chroniclers. Be assisted French agents fan the flames of superstition, or was it genuine dread in a superstitious age? The palace's rhythm shifts under the weight of it all, feasts postponed, music silenced, the grand halls echoing emptier as nobles huddle in clusters, dissecting every groan that escapes your lips. Whispers evolve into bolder conjectures. Is this the end for Charles the Bad, whose plots once set Europe ablaze, now consumed by literal fire? Your heirs visit tentatively, their faces pale masks hiding ambition or grief, hands clasping your snum as they read gestures that feel scripted. The air hums with unspoken questions, the scent of beeswax from vigil candles mingling with your ointments, creating a heady veil that blurs reality. In fevered moments, you imagine joining the gossip, whispering back from your bed, "Let them fear. It's kept me alive this long," but words fail, lost in the rot's grip, leaving you a silent center to the storm. Another joke surfaces weekly. If omens are real, perhaps the next king's first act should be banning canned laissez-faire first in the Game of Thrones. The court's fears feed on themselves, tales growing wilder, visions of your ghost wandering the halls or prophecies linking your burn to kingdom's fall. Servants cross themselves passing your door, their footsteps quickening, while outside, ravens caw as if heralding doom. Your fading rule casts long shadows, alliances fraying as word spreads beyond walls, messengers riding out with sealed letters that carry the scent of uncertainty. The ASMR cadence persists in the background, the soft scratch of quills recording the day's events, the gentle swish of curtains drawn against prying eyes, lulling you toward an easy rest. But sleep brings dreams of swirling crowds, faces twisted in accusation, omens manifesting as fiery specters that dance just out of reach. The whispers crescendo at night, when the palace quiets, voices carrying clear through stone. Debates on regency, fears of invasion if you succumb. You cling to fragments of strength, willing your numb limbs to stir, but they betray you, anchors in a sea of rumor. Quirky edges emerge in the Thalassa fringe story of a mirror cracking in your antechamber the moment the fire ignited, seen as a shattered soul's signating layers to the fear that grips your court like vines. As days bleed into one another, the omens weigh heavier, your rule fading not with a bang but a whispered sigh, the palace echo chamber of dread. You endure, breath shallow, senses attuned to every murmur, the accidents ripple turning tides you once controlled. The world outside blurs, but the whispers persist, a chorus foretelling the end, wrapping you in their intangible web. The whispers fade into the background hum of the palace at night, a distant murmur like leaves rustling in a gentle breeze, leaving you alone with the weight of your thoughts in the dim glow of a single oil lamp. You lie there, your body a prisoner to the decay that's stolen your mobility, limbs numb and unresponsive, as if they've abandoned you for some far-off realm. The fever ebbs slightly in these quiet hours, granting you pockets of clarity amid the haze. Moments where the pain recedes just enough to let memories flood in like tide water rushing through cracked dams. Your mind, ever the restless schemer, turns inward now, pondering the turbulent life that's led you to this vulnerable brink, a cascade of schemes and rivalries that once thrilled you but now feel like chains dragging you under. You drift back to your youth, the air in your chamber heavy with the scent of cooling broth left untouched on a side table, its steam long dissipated into nothingness. Born in 1332, you inherited Navari's crown young, a sliver of land pinched between powerhouses, forcing you to play the game of thrones with cunning rather than brute force. Sensory details sharpen in recollection, the crisp snap of seals on secret letters, the metallic tang of ink on parchment as you plotted alliances that shifted like sand dunes. You recall the Hundred Years' War's chaos, where you danced between England and France, pledging loyalty to one while whispering sedition to the other, your rivalries fueling feuds that kept Europe ablaze. The mainstream historical fact stands clear: your imprisonment by the French in 1356 after meddling in their affairs marked a turning point, hardening you into the bad moniker that stuck like tar. But the quirky fringes of those days tickle your delirium. Whispers from court jesters about how you once consulted a Moorish astrologer who read your fate in chicken entrails, predicting a reign of fiery passions that now seems eerily prophetic. Falker charm or charlatan's babble, it added spice to your scheming soup. You almost chuckle weakly, the sound a drier rasp in your throat. Imagine if that seer had specified fiery bedclothes instead, might have saved you a world of hurt. The pain pulls you back, a throbbing reminder in your useless limbs, but your thoughts persist, weaving through rivalries like threads in a tangled web. Rivals emerge in vivid flashes, John to of France, your captor and kin, whose dungeons chilled you to the bone. Damp stone walls echoing with the drip of water that now mirrors the seeping from your wounds. You schemed your escape, bribing guards with promises of gold, emerging to stir rebellions that nearly toppled in. Then there's your brother-in-law, Philip of Burgundy, whose lands you coveted, leading to poisoned plots that historians still sift through like detectives at a cold case. Modern asides flicker. It's like a medieval soap opera full of backstabs and betrayals, where you'd be the villain everyone loves to hate, complete with dramatic monologues. Another light joke bubbles up. They called your schemes bad, but compared to today's politics, you were just an early adopter of alternative facts. The ASMR cadence of the night aids your reflections, soft creak of the bed frame as a nurse shifts nearby, the gentle whoosh of her breath as she fans you with a feather plume, lulling you deeper into introspection. You ponder how these rivalries eroded you, constant vigilance sapping your strength long before exhaustion's grip tightened, alliances forged in fire, like your English pacts during the war, only to shatter when convenience dictated, leaving you isolated, much like now surrounded yet utterly alone. Scholars openly debate whether your badness was calculated survival or innate malice, a question that splits biographies into camps, opportunist or outright tyrant. Parsing your letters for clues in ambiguous ink, your mind wanders to specific schemes, the sensory rush of them, the velvet touch of a glove hiding a poisoned needle, allegedly aimed at foes, or the heady aroma of when ironic knout feasts where you toasted rivals while plotting their downfall. You recall the Jacquerie revolt you incited in 1358, peasants rising against nobles at your subtle urging, chaos you hoped to ride to greater power. But rivalries bit back imprisoned again in 1378. You escaped once more, resilience your truest ally until this bedbound vulnerability stripped it away. A third joke surfaces gently. Life's full of plot twists. Who knew your biggest rival would be a tipsy towel and a clumsy candle? The fever rises again, blurring edges, but clarity clings. These past deeds, the webs of deceit spun across borders, led inexorably here. Exhaustion born not just from age but from a soul weary of perpetual strife. You feel the weight of it all, limbs lost to gangrene mirroring alliances severed, function faded like forgotten pacts. The chamber's quiet amplifies your inner turmoil, the distant hoot of an owl outside sounding like a rival's mocking laugh. Quirky tidbits resurface from memory's fringes. That time you allegedly used a cursed ring to hex a competitor. A tale from Basque folklore where such trinkets summoned ill-luck, superstitious nonsense. Yet in this moment, it feels plausible. Your accident echoed curse. Reflections deepen as dawn hints at the horizon, pale light filtering through cracks in the shutters, casting long shadows that dance like ghosts of old enemies. You ponder the cost kingdoms maneuvered, lives appended, all for a crown that now feels like a noose. Modern parallels drift in. Today's CEO's cutthroat deals echo your style, but with lawyers instead of lances. The pain throbs in rhythm with your heartbeat, a reminder that vulnerability strips away pretense, leaving you to face the man behind the moniker. Scholars' debate lingers in your thoughts. Was your turbulence a product of the year's chaos, or did you fan its flames for personal gain? Open questions that will outlive you, debated in dusty halls far from this bed of suffering. Your breath slow, the ASMR elements weaving a sleepy veil, the faint rustle of pages as the physician reads by lamplight, the soft drip of a water clock marking time's inexorable march. Steams replay in loops, rivalries a carousel of face. John Philip, even your own kin in Aragon, each grudge is stone in the path to this point. You almost whisper aloud, sarcasm soft, if only you'd schemed a better doctor instead of thrones. The vulnerability settles like dust, past glories dimming in the face of present decay, your life a turbulent river now pooling into stillness. As morning light strengthens, thoughts fragment, but the pondering persists, a quiet reckoning in the hush. You've lived boldly, badly perhaps, but full enough in this strict state, you confront the echoes, rivalries fading into the ether like smoke from your fateful blaze. The palace stirs faintly beyond, but here, introspection holds court, vulnerable and raw. The dawn's pale fingers creep across the chamber floor, stretching shadows that twist like forgotten promises. But your mind, weary from the night's introspective wanderings, now shifts toward the horizon of what comes next. You lie there, breaths shallow and labored, the rot's grip on your limbs a constant, dull throb that anchors you to the bed-like roots in the yielding soil. The fever lingers, a warm veil that softens the edges of reality, allowing thoughts of your kingdom's future to bloom in the quiet spaces between pain's pulses. Your erstwhile extensions of your blood and ambition hover in the periphery, their faces flickering in your vision like candles in a draught, watching your suffering with eyes that mix grief, impatience, and the subtle gleam of opportunity. The palace, once a stage for your machinations, now feels like a theater where the final act unfolds, with successors waiting in the wings for their cue. You sense their presence even when they're not in the room, the soft shuffle of feet outside your door, the hushed conferences in adjacent halls where maps are unrolled and borders debated. Your son, Charles III, the eldest and most poised to inherit, visits daily, his hand cool on your forehead as he murmurs reassurances that ring hollow against the decay's advance. He's grown in your shadow, learning the art of diplomacy from your turbulent example. But now, as you watch him through half-lidded eyes, you wonder if he'll navigate the rivalries with the same cunning or falter under the weight of your bad legacy. The air carries the faint scent of his colleague Nespuses. From distant Trades, a reminder of the alliances you forged through marriages and pacts, now teetering as your strength wanes. Thoughts cascade like a river nearing its delta, spreading wide over the landscape of your realm. Navarre, that narrow strip of earth you've defended with plots and poisons, faces uncertain tides without your guiding hand. Will France swallow it whole, as they've hungered to do, or will Aragon's grasp tighten? Your daughters, scattered like jewels in foreign courts, Joan wed to the Duke of Brittany, Blanche to the Count of Foix, scary pieces of your influence. But their husbands eye your throne with calculating gazes. You imagine them receiving missives about your state, quill scratching urgently on parchment, sealing wax melting under flames that mock your own fiery mishap. A gentle sarcasm whispers in your mind, "Ah, the family business passing crowns like hot potatoes, hoping they don't burn the next holder." The sensory details ground you amid the haze, the soft rustle of silk as a nurse adjusts your pillows, propping you to see the window where winter's grip still clings to the hills beyond. Birds wheel in the sky, free in ways you'll never be again, their cries a distant melody that blends with the murmur of prayers from the chapel below. Your legacy looms large in these moments, a tapestry woven from threads of triumph and treachery, rebellions you incited, the thrones you nearly claimed. All now stories to be retold by chroniclers who'll debate your motives long after your dust settles. Mainstream history will remember you as a key player in the Hundred Years' War, your maneuvers prolonging the conflict and reshaping alliances, a fact etched in treaties and battle logs that outlive flash, but quirky fringes color the edges of your reminiscence. Tales from your youth of a hidden bastard child, whispered in Navarre's taverns as a potential dark horse heir. A fringe legend that adds intrigue to the succession line imagined or real. It tickles the what-ifs in your fading thoughts. You almost smile faintly, the effort pulling at cracked lips, If legacies were bets, yours is a wild card in a deck stacked against peace. The pain surges briefly, a reminder from your numb limbs. But you push through, envisioning your kingdom's future as a chessboard where pawns become queens under watchful eyes. Successors watch your suffering with veiled intensity. Charles III lingers longest, his questions about state affairs probing gently, as if testing the waters of command. You croak responses when strength allows, imparting fragments of wisdom born from rivalry as the importance of shadows over swords, alliances, as fragile as glass. Dutters and letters, read aloud by scribes whose voices drone in ASMR softness, the parchment crinkling like autumn leaves, filled with platitudes that mask their husbands' ambitions. The court orbits around your decline, envoys from France and Aragon arriving under pretext of concern, their boots echoing in the halls as they gauge the power vacuum. Modern asides drift in your delirium. It's like a corporate takeover, heirs circling the boardroom while the CEO fades, plotting mergers in hushed tones. Scholars will openly debate the smoothness of your succession. Was it your careful grooming of Charles III that ensured stability? Or did underlying tensions from your bad reputation sow seeds of later strife? This question hangs in historical air, parsed in debates over dynastic charts and faded correspondences. Your thoughts turn poignant, the legacy not just of land but of lessons etched in blood and betrayal. You've built a kingdom resilient yet scarred, much like your body now, heirs inheriting both glory and ghosts. A light joke flickers. They say the apple doesn't fall far, hope mine doesn't land in a bonfire like I did. The watching eyes multiplicators peeking in, heirs conferring their presence a pressure that accelerates your introspection. You ponder the future's loom, threads of your schemes weaving into their reins. Will they emulate your cunning, or reject it for piety's path? The chamber quiets as midday sun filters through, warming the air slightly, the scent of fresh bread from distant kitchens wafting in a tease for appetite long gone. Successors' visits blend into a procession, each face a mirror of your features, twisted by youth and vigor, their suffering watching a mix of duty and dread. You feel the kingdom's pulse quicken beyond walls, trade routes humming, borders watched warily, all hanging on your breath's continuation. Quirky tidbits surface, that old prophecy from a wandering friar about your line ending in flames, now seeming less fringe and more fateful, adding a mystic layer to the looming handoff. Pain ebbs momentarily, allowing clearer visions. Charles III on the throne negotiating with the poise you taught. Dutters, children carrying your blood to new horizons. But vulnerability tempers optimism. You're suffering a cautionary tale they'll whisper to their own heirs. Another joke softly. Legacies like wine ages well if not set ablaze first. The ASMR elements soothe. The gentle drip of an hourglass, the soft whisper of wind through cracks, lulling you toward acceptance. As afternoon wanes, thoughts coalesce a kingdom's future canvas half painted by your hand, successors to finish the strokes amid watching eyes. You cling to the loom of it all, heirs embodying hope and hazard, your suffering a bridge to their era. The palace stirs with subtle shifts, powers gravity pulling toward them, legacies wait settling like dusk. In this haze, you confront the inevitable. Your turbulent path ends, but the story spins on, watched by those who suffer in silent vigil. The weight of impending legacies presses gently now like a feather drifting down in still air, as your thoughts begin to unravel, fraying at the edges under the relentless pull of misery that has defined these final days. You lie there, breaths growing fainter, each inhale a labored whisper through lips cracked and dry. The chamber around you a blurred tapestry of shadows and soft lamplight that dances lazily on the walls. The pain, once a roaring tempest, dulls to a persistent hum, your body surrendering piece by piece to the darkness that creeps in from the corners, inviting you to let go after the endless stretch of suffering that followed that fateful blaze. Days have blurred into one another, a monotonous cycle of fevered dreams and waking torments, where the gangrene's advance has stripped away not just function, but the very essence of who you were, scheming king, the bad one, now reduced to a fading echo in a bed that feels like a coffin in waiting. You slip away gradually, the process as inexorable as the tide retreating from shore, pulling you further from the shores of consciousness with each passing hour. The physicians have exhausted their arsenal, their voices a distant murmur now, blending with the soft rustle of linens, as nurses adjust your position one last time. Their touches feather light against skin that's grown cold and unresponsive. Sensory details fade softly, the faint aroma of incense lingering from earlier prayers, meant to purify the air thick with decay's whisper, the gentle creak of the floorboards under a servant's weight as they tiptoe out, leaving you in solitude, the distant chime of a bell tolling vespers, marking time's indifferent march. Your mind in these waning moments flits to the bizarre end of it all, how a simple thread and a candle's kiss unraveled a rein built on cunning, turning you into a cautionary tale whispered in future courts. Historians will later document your death on January 1st, 1387, a mainstream fact etched in the annals as the culmination of a life entangled in the web of the Hundred Years' War, where your final days underscored the fragility of even the most resilient monarchs in an age of rudimentary medicine. Yet there's a quirky fringe tidbit that clings to the lore. Some chroniclers claimed your body emitted a strange ethereal glow in those last hours, attributed by superstitious minds to the alchemical residues of the wine wrap, as if your spirit rebelled against the mundane by leaving a luminous farewell for Core's flourish or delirious exaggeration. It adds a shimmer to the darkness. You feel the slip deepening, vision tunneling to a pinpoint where the room's details dissolve into a hazy veil, colors bleeding into grays that soothe rather than alarm. Modern observers might compare it to powering down an old device, the screen fading pixel by pixel, but here it's organic, a natural dimming that carries no beeps or warnings, just the quiet acceptance of an end approaching. A gentle sarcasm drifts through your thoughts one last time. Well, if this is checkout time, at least the bill's paid in full with all those bad deeds, no refunds on a life like yours. The misery of days past, the throbbing wounds, the numb limbs, the swirling remorse now recedes like echoes in a vast hall, leaving space for a peculiar peace that settles over you light as a sigh. Heirs gather briefly at your bedside, their faces soft in the lamplight, whispering farewells that you hear as if from underwater, muffled and distant. Charles III kneels, his hand on yours, cold meeting cold, promising to uphold the kingdom you've clawed to maintain, his voice a low rumble that vibrates through the haze. You sense the shift in power, the loom of legacy handing off like a torch passed in the night, your storied reign concluding not with fanfare but this quiet unraveling. Scholars openly debate whether your bizarre demise was mere accident or a metaphorical culmination of a life lived on the edge. Flames symbolizing the volatile passions that defined you, an interpretation that divides experts. Some seeing poetic justice, others random tragedy in the chaos of medieval fate. The final fade intensifies, breaths spacing further apart, each one a longer pause in the symphony of life that's winding down. You ponder fleetingly the bizarre twists that brought you here, the exhaustion's grip, the doctor's remedy gone awry, the candle's careless spark, all converging into this moment of release. Another light joke flickers dimly, They say go out with a bang, but you opted for a slow sizzle typical contrarian, even at the end. The chamber grows warmer in illusion, or perhaps it's the fever's last embrace, wrapping you in a cocoon that feels oddly comforting. The SMR whispers of the world outside when sighing through cracks, a dog's bark in the courtyard fading to white noise that lulls you deeper. Darkness beckons now, a velvet curtain drawing closed, pulling you into its folds with the gentleness of a lover's hand. Your storied reign, marked by rivalries that spanned continents and schemes that toppled foes, ends not in battle's glory but this intimate surrender, a bizarre punctuation to a life of calculated chaos. Quirky echoes resurface one final time. That old Basque legend of kings reborn as stars after fiery deaths, a fringe hope that you might twinkle eternally above Navarre whimsical nonsense. Yet in the slip, it brings a fleeting smile to your spirit. The misery dissolves fully, days of pain evaporating like morning mist under sun, leaving only the essence of you drifting free. A third joke whispers softly in the void. If heaven's gate asked for credentials, just say you were well roasted. She'll get you in on the sympathy vote. The palace will mourn, heirs will ascend, but for you the fate is complete. Darkness enveloping like a warm blanket, the bizarre unsealing your chapter in history's tone. As the tale of Charles II fades into the quiet night, let your own thoughts drift gently, like leaves on a calm stream, carrying away the echoes of fire and fate. You've journeyed through shadows of history with me, feeling the weight of a king's weary steps, the sting of flames that dance to close, and the slow surrender to peace that awaits us all. Breathe deeply now and out, letting each exhale soften the edges of the day, releasing tensions like whispers into the dark. Imagine the palace halls emptying, candles guttering out one by one, their warm glow yielding to starlight that filters through your window, soft and reassuring. No more schemes or sufferings linger here, only the gentle rhythm of your breath rising and falling like waves on a distant shore, lulling you toward dreams where kings rest easy and nights unfold in serene wonder. Feel the blanket's embrace, heavy yet comforting, pulling you down into velvety depths where worries dissolve into nothingness. You've been a wonderful companion on this bedtime voyager's well, dear listener, as the story's final imagery blurs into tranquil haze, fading into sweet, whispering slumber.